Welcome back. In this video, we are going to talk about integers. And in integers, first we'll look at what are positive integers. So the numbers that we know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, these are called as positive integers. In addition to this, there is another important number that we know, which is a 0. And to write 0, I'm going to draw a line through the circle, and that's just to separate it from the letter O. So 0 that we know can also be used as an origin. And what I mean by that is if we draw a line, geometric line, that starts at origin, so it would start at 0, and then we would have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And together then, the positive integers and the zeros, these are called as natural numbers. Now, an example of using a natural number is we can think of, let's imagine a tree. We have a tree, and on that tree, there are maybe two birds sitting on the tree. So when we use the integer values for counting, we would say that there are two birds on the tree, right? Two birds on the tree. And let's say for some reasons the birds flew away. Now we do not have any bird on the tree. And to represent that, we would say there are 0 birds on the tree. That's another sort of intuition about the 0. Now, apart from these numbers, positive numbers, there are also negative numbers, and we call them as negative integers. So, these would be -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So, these numbers are called as negative integers. And together, all these numbers, we can visualize them on the number line. So the line that we drew earlier, we can extend it on the left hand side, and below 0, that is towards the left hand side, these would be -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and so on. So uh, that's how the numbers are. So in summary, the negative integers, the 0, and the positive integers, together we think of them as integers. Now we look at some of the properties of these integers. So let me clear the screen. If we have an integer 2, we can represent it on this geometric line. Let's say we start at origin 0, then we have 1, we have the 2, and 3, and 4. Now imagine if we added a value of 2 to this particular 2, then what we are essentially doing, let me use a different color. So let's use this one. If we add 2, then what we are essentially saying is initially our point 2 was right here, but then we moved 2 positions to the right. So there's the one position, then we move this to the second position, and now we are we have moved to this location, and that is 4, and therefore when we add 2 to 2 we get the value of 4. That's just a visual intuition. Likewise, if we have again the value of 2 and we subtract the value of 1 from it, what we are saying is we want to move from this original position of 2 to one position back right here, and now we are at 1, and so when we subtract 1 from 2 we have this value of 1. Now apart from this, you can try and think about any other calculations. So this is the way it would work out. Next, if we look at another property of integers is, again, if you look at this line, and let's say we have the origin right here in the center. We have the letter 2 on this side. So let's say this is the right side and this is the left side. Or we can say that this is above 0, and here we can say this is below 0. So the negative number would be the same distance but on the other side of 0, which is going to be right here, and that's -2. We could generalize this case. What I mean by that is, instead of writing a specific number, we could simply write a letter x that represents any number. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 100, 10,000, anything. And here we can say this is -x. So that's how we can represent the a positive and the negative of the same integer. Now let's look at some examples. If we think about time, let's say if we have a person and the date of birth for that person is, let's say, 1st of January 1970, and uh, this is also known as the epoch time. So in Unix operating systems, we think of this as the beginning of time uh, for all the calculations. So let's say the date of birth of this person is 1st of January 1970, and so what we then can say is the day of birth we can put it as the origin as 0, and then so that is the 0th year. Now we are in, let's say now the year is 2024, which it is. Then we could say that the well if we look at this, um, if we think of this as 0, then we would say yes, it would be those many nanoseconds or time elapsed since the beginning of time, which is for the person 1970, since the birth. And likewise, if we look on the other side of 0, let's say if we are right here and this is 100, then we are going on the negative side of this, and so if we want to count the time from this location, then we would have to add this time to this time to get the current time that we have. Another example is that of a thermometer. So if we have a thermometer, so let's say this is a thermometer, and in this thermometer there is a origin which is centered at 0, which is this one, 0, and then above 0 there are values that are positive. So we have 20, 40, etc., and that tells us how hot the temperature, how hot the temperature is, uh, or how hot are the days are. And then below that we have negative values. So -20, -40, and this tells us how cold it is. And so if we happen to have happen to see a temperature that is, let's say, -20, -20, then uh, if we look on the number line, if we were to draw a number line right here, we are at 0, and then we have -20 and -40. Likewise here we have +20, then we have +40. So the -20 is telling us we are right at this particular point on the line. If the temperature were above 0 and it was at, let's say, +20, then we would have been right here, +20. And so we can use this 0 as a origin to see how far we are on the positive side or how far we are on the negative side of things. Now, finally, let's look at some of the relations in with integers, and one of them is x plus 0 is the same thing as 0 plus x, and that is x. So that's the same thing. So it doesn't matter if you have add 1 to 0, 1 to 2, or if you add 2, if you do 2 plus 1, it's the same answer you are going to get, which is 3. Next, if we have a number x, and this is a general word we are using, character x, to represent any integer. If we have an integer x and we add the negative integer of the same value to it, then the output is a 0. And when this is true, so for example, if we have 1 and if we add -1 to it, the output is 0. This is called as, so here what we say is, let's say in case of x, what we would say is that -x is additive inverse of x. So -x is additive inverse of x. That's what we are saying here. And I think that was it for this video, and we'll continue the discussion again in the following video. We'll talk more about the other topics. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please do let me know in the comment section below. I hope to see you all in the next video. Thank you.